So first, just to clarify, this is not my first Manga One Shots video. As a matter of fact, I'd go so far as to call this episode 2. I did do one One Shots video months ago, but in my personal opinion, looking back on it, it is absolutely god-awful. But this time now I have more material that I'm willing to talk about, mostly ranging from one-shots to 2-issue series. So honestly, I'm not going to score these. If anything, I'm just going to talk about them and just give my general thoughts on them. So, let's get started with Manga One Shots, Episode 2. So first up on the list, we have The Lesbian Romance, I Married My Best Friend to Shut My Parents Up, by Kodama Naoko. Now this talks about a young woman known as Morimoto, a young woman who works in Japan and is, up until now, been completely single. However, she's had to constantly deal with her parents' harassing remarks of how she should find a man to settle down and have children already, when she's still in the prime of her youth and, honestly, is not concerned with romance. So, in order to get her parents to finally hush up about marriage, she proposes the idea to a former underclassman of hers named Hana, that they pretend to be a same-sex couple that are married in order to finally get Morimoto's parents off of her back. Now, this one, it does sound strange at first, but I will say, I have been weirdly, morbidly fascinated by this one for a while, and I actually finally got my chance to experience it for the first time when I bought this manga at a convention for just a good 13 bucks. Would I say it was worth it? Honestly, yes. Because like I said, this is a simple one-shot romance manga, and it works in a way. But I do like how at first it starts off saying how it is a fake marriage, but over the course of the manga we actually see how Morimoto and Hana grow closer together, and Morimoto actually accepting that the marriage doesn't seem so fake after a while. And I do like how it's that gradual building romance there. I like that, especially how it approaches it more of an adult scenario, in a way. And be frank, this actually highlights a lot of issues that some people have of how parents are constantly pushing their children, especially in Japan, to hurry up, get married, and quite frankly, nobody should be single up into their 30s and 40s. They deem it as culturally inappropriate or strange. Which, to some people, it's really not that big of a concept. I mean, really, what's the point? Marriages and relationships shouldn't be the defining part of your life. It should be what you do with your life that should matter. But I do like how this manga addresses that problem to a small degree. But I do especially like how at one point Morimoto's mother shows up out of nowhere and pretty much tells her to put down the charade and quit acting like this. Hell, she even goes as far as to insult Hana, only for Morimoto to snap and defend Hana, which I thought was freaking awesome. So the art style itself, it's pretty wholesome, pretty cute, honestly. I have not read much of Kodama's works, but this one definitely stood out as just being pretty much just a wholesome manga. I liked it. Would I recommend it? Yes. Especially if you're in the mood for a lesbian one-shot romance. Now, let's move on to the next one. Next up, we have Death Note short stories by Tsugumi Ohba and Takeshi Obata. And I will not lie to you guys, even to this day, when I think of Death Note, I feel a bittersweet taste in my mouth. Mostly because it had an amazing start, an amazing first half, but then the second half just falls flat. Like, it takes a sharp decline. So when I heard that there was a new volume for Death Note coming out, which consisted of multiple short stories that takes place after the original series, I was intrigued but also hesitant due to the disappointment of how Death Note ended. But in the end, I did give this a try, and honestly, it actually wasn't that bad. It gave some great context to what happens after the series, such as how Ryuk actually finds 2 new people who take his Death Note, and they do small-time crimes, heart attacks, thereby reigniting the passion for Kira, making it seem like Kira never disappeared. However, Nier quickly figures out that these are different people who are using the Death Note, seeing as how the Kira case team is still active. even now. But I do like how this also gives some backstory to L as well. Like, we actually do get to see him growing up in an orphanage and even as a child. But also, Nier's progression, like, you can definitely tell Nier ages just by the hair length at the most. Like, near the end of this volume, Nier's hair has grown all the way to the floor. But they are so obsessed with games that they just can't bring themselves to care. But honestly, this one definitely helped me to kind of reignite that little bit of passion I still have for Death Note. While I do think the original series ended on a very sour note, I do think that for any Death Note fans out there, this will satisfy that craving for just that little bit more. Next up, we have the one-shot Assassin's Creed Valhalla, Blood Brothers, by Feng from TokyoPop. Honestly, you guys, I did not expect Assassin's Creed to actually have manga adaptations, but here we are. And for a while, I'd actually just recently gotten Valhalla, and seeing the fact that there was actually a one-shot manga for it piqued my interest. So apparently Blood Brothers actually takes place before Valhalla's time period. Essentially, it's like a setting stone for Valhalla's current setting. Anyways, so the main point of this story is to show these two blood brothers known as Ulf and Bjorn and their adoptive father Blue Shield, essentially going off to help out with the raiding of England. And to put it simply, they do a very damn good job. Like, they nearly actually conquer England as a whole, only they're very much stopped at the end due to Ulf and Bjorn's father getting shot with an arrow and getting killed in battle. Now, the biggest highlight I can definitely say for this one shot is not only is it cool because Vikings and all that, but at the same time, the art style is one of the biggest highlights for me. To this day, I have yet to see an art style that has such a dark background and dark characters, like darkly shaded, I should say. Honestly, that was one of the biggest draw-ins for me, was just how dark and yet very rich the art style looked. And I mean, every single page looked beautifully done. Though I will say this much, I would recommend not reading this in a dark room. I'd recommend reading this with a lot of lights on, because otherwise you will just look at the page and you will start giving yourself a headache. That's one of the biggest things I want to warn you all about. But all in all, if you want just like a good one-shot Vikings manga, or if you just want to see what all the fuss is about with Assassin's Creed's manga, go ahead and check it out. I would recommend this one. So, for this last one-shot, I'll be cheating a little and doing a two-shot with My Hero Academia Team-Up Missions by Yoko Akiyama. Now, to be fair to you guys, I honestly did not think much of this one at first. See, up until this point, the only one that I had seen had been Vigilantes. That was the only one I actually bothered to read, before I even read the main series manga. But this one just popped up, and at first I didn't think much of it. I just thought, oh look, it's another spin-off of My Hero. Like, we don't already have enough of those. But overall, I decided to go ahead and give it a chance, and I was actually a bit genuinely surprised about what I saw. See, the whole concept of this is putting a bunch of random members of either Class 1A or any other outside characters such as different pro heroes or other more minor characters and teaming them up together in some of the most random matchups you would ever imagine. For instance, we actually get to see from Midoriya, Uraraka, Bakugo, and Maruko teaming up to take down a villain, to Bakugo, Todoroki, Kirishima, and Kami working together to actually restore a crumbling amusement park. A bunch of just lighthearted, small little stories that could occur over like a single chapter or whatever. But the two Easter eggs that I definitely liked from here was, one, we get to see a backstory of Melissa, a character from the My Hero Academia 2 Heroes movie. And to be honest, I did like how they brought her more into the fold here. They gave us a one-chapter segment where she teams up with Hatsume and a sort of competition as to who can design the best support gear. But in another one, we actually get to see her in her backstory, finding out that one, she's powerless, aka quirkless, and she can't even be a hero like she dreamed of. But after a conversation between her father, David Shield, and All Might, she comes to find out a new purpose of becoming a support hero. Kind of like how her father was for All Might for all those years. And I did like that. We did get some decent backstory and interaction with Melissa. But another one I definitely liked, and this one was from Volume 2, was seeing a little bit of the middle school days of Midoriya and Bakugo, where they actually managed to help take down a small villain at the time. And to be honest, I did like how we got a little bit of a sneak peek of these two during their middle school days, where Bakugo was even more of an ass than he is now. But all in all, I definitely liked this one. It was lighthearted, it was short, a nice, neat little package, especially if you're waiting for the next volume of My Hero Academia proper, or even Vigilantes, if you're a fan of it like me. Well, folks, I think that about does it for episode 2 of Manga One Shots. And honest to God, I hope this is so much better than the first episode. I look back at it now and honestly just feel ashamed of myself. So I'm hoping this one will be a much better improvement. Anyways, you guys, thank you so much again for listening to this crazy man's ramblings. And if you guys have any manga one-shots you want to hear me talk about, feel free to let me know in the comment section down below. If you're interested for more of what I do, either give a like or subscribe to the channel for more, or if you're interested, check out my playlist for manga rambles, which I will leave a link to here. Anyways, you guys, thank you once again for listening to this crazy man's ramblings, and I hope you all have a good day, and happy reading.